You see, marriage for two persons that love their own God with all their heart, soul, mind and strength is simply a verbal commitment to be in a promised relationship, committed to caring for the other in the way appropriate for such two people. Namely, they will care for the other as themselves. They will rescue them from dire straits, therefore, and behave towards each other accordingly. If I know that is your purpose, and you know that is my purpose, each of us then is in some sense right. To love the other as their neighbour. In other words, marriage for two godly persons together is to enter in to a prioritizing each other as if the other had already rescued them from dire straits. Now, of course, your love and kindness and your presence, your care, not to mention making love and so on, and looking after children together, may be understood as a great rescue in living in the universe of uncertainty, which may seem to have very little meaning without such. Very little joy, perhaps. So I'm not saying that marriage is to be then some formal relationship though you just turn up and the other does actually come to be in dire straits and they're not prioritizing each other the rest of the time. It is a statement to prioritize. And it calls upon an integrity of loving kindness to live accordingly. Not to dote upon one's partner, but certainly to give them priority. And the children need this priority. And when the children are grown up, well, you still have this priority for each other because you have experienced the other rescuing you from what life would have otherwise been without them. So we value faithfulness, integrity, and we value the other one loving God, their God, as you love yours. For you know this is the foundation on which your relationship lasts. Eternally. Thank you, Dad. Do you see, the two of them have not rescued each other from dire straits. But they're saying, if we had both rescued each other from dire straits, we would both be prioritizing each other in this world of uncertainty and change and so on. And that would be such a blessing to both of us. Shall we do this? They say, yes. I mean, I've gone off in this verbal track, but in reality they just say, well, we love each other, we just want to be with each other always. So we thought we'd better get married. So we did. And in the world of uncertainty, where we are bringing up children, some measure of permanence during the childhood stages of our children seems very important. Perhaps that they have role models and so on. Perhaps they just have security and provision. Perhaps that they have the day-to-day loving kindness and the resources that the parents need to do this. Two is better than one, you see. Now, it hasn't just been that in the past. There's also been extended families where the two families in some sense come together and all contribute to the upbringing of the children. That's an interesting difference of culture, isn't it? Leave that point just there to come back to what of this 21st century situation where we're so much in relationships not being lasting for all of the life of the two parties together. Well, yes, it's understandable if that relationship fades and they no longer love each other. Then we recognize the relationship is broken. And all we can say is, well, that's very sad. We'd so much rather the love and loyalty had been so strong with both sides, that life would have been lovely together continually for the duration of life here. I'm not saying we have any prescription that you should be holding to, some rule. Only the obvious that it would be so much better if you can both love each other, continue to. And perhaps reflection upon how much you have meant to each other. Would help you to continue to mean so much to each other. If one of the two parties is not willing to do this, they probably no longer worshipping the God that they did have when they made that marriage commitment. Well, that would seem very sad, at least from a point of view that values good continuing rather than ceasing. To the extent that either party is truly loving their God, their own God, albeit now different to each other, and requiring such to part from each other, it will be a blessing. But in as far as you're not devoted to your God, you'll find the break incredibly hard. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Bless you. If your partner won't hold with the marriage, even though you would, then hold on the more tenaciously to loving your God, and you will come through. And wonderfully. Bless you. I can say I speak from experience. Oh dear. Bless you. Thank you, Dad. Well, it comes to me that I should also mention that some families, and I believe I first came across it in South London, Elephant and Castle, the lady would go off and, well, quite literally sleep with a chap so that she could have kids, but she'd no intention of keeping him as a long-term husband. And, well, in the South London situation, she typically didn't have extended family, so in some sense you're reliant very much on the state providing the resources in financial terms, housing and so on, not the extended family. But in a society where the extended family exists, the child might well be well brought up, even so, Dad not being there, because Uncle fills in the role, or Granddad fills in the role of the male, and things like that, you know, for the society, role models and so on. But you still had the situation where one of the two parents didn't really have their children. They'd lost them. And although you can imagine circumstances in which it's not too bad perhaps for the child because of substitutes, as we've said here, could be very bad for the men who don't have a family life. They're just single men. Yes, they've had affairs and they've got children somewhere in the world, but not in meaningful relationship with them. That seems a great unhappiness. I'm not sure as we want that at all. You see, the ideal is that the couple, well, they make love and they have children, they have family, and the kids grow up, but that experience together has made a bond that keeps them in love through into whatever measure of old age they get. It's hard not to see that as our ideal. And the alternative is only tolerable with some very good alternative fellowship. Now, typically, older people try to give each other support in that way. But it's not very complete. And single people tend not to flourish. I mean, a lot of married people don't too, and that's because they're not loving each other, but as I understand it. The best solution then is unquestionably always full relationship with your God. And then see how your life is blessed, whether your marriage continues or whether it fails. Nothing can stop our God loving you to bits. I speak from experience. Thank you, Dad.